Things like grip strength, VO2max, and having a lot of muscles. They seem to be talked about endlessly in the longevity space these days. People like Dr. Peter Attia, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Brian Johnson, and countless other podcasts talk about this a lot. There is a pretty strong evidence that cardiovascular fitness, VO2max, is probably the single biggest lever you could pull to improve your health. For example, if you take an overweight and untrained person and put them in a simple cardio routine, their longevity metrics supposedly improves more than any other thing that could be applied there. More so than losing weight, nutrition, diet, medicine. Now, anything beyond baseline cardio, apparently the effects are not that strong. So if you are trained, it's better to lose weight and take like medication or whatever, right? Things like weight and diet just start to matter more. Studies after studies show that VO2 max does predict longevity best. Those that don't know, VO2 max is the body's ability to saturate oxygen and use it in one bout of exercise. So a person with a high VO2 max can utilize a lot more oxygen in one go, right? So that in this case, if you take an overweight person and increase their VO2 max, they could saturate more oxygen and their health metric improves more than a skinny person with a bad VO2 max and has a perfect diet, for example. By health metrics, we mean things like blood pressure, lipid panel, brain health, etc. Supposedly, that's how powerful VO2 max is. And grip strength, of course, is how hard we could grip things. Having a lot of muscles is an indication of strength and bodily function. So having a strong grip indicates longevity. That being said though, these things are clearly just indication. I think when we chase after improving the side effects of what I view as more important things, we probably miss the plot. It also somewhat destroys our long-term motivation, in my opinion. What I think matters the most for longevity and physical health is physical vitality and grace. Like, I know on a personal level, people that don't spend all their time running or doing strength training. They don't look all that big. In fact, they look very skinny sometimes. Yet they move in a very precise, articulate, and almost beautiful way. In their movement, things like the way they walk, the way the body rotates, the twinkle in their eyes have a difference in quality from other people. And I'm positive they still exhibit really good VO2 max and have really great strength. But it's clear that's the side effect of what they do already. They don't go around training that stuff specifically necessarily. They don't go around training their grip or do the Norwegian 4x4, a great protocol by the way, or do hours of zone 2. Ain't nobody have time for that. They don't prioritize being 10% body fat and measure their sleep every day to get the perfect sleep score. They don't count every single calories or eat the perfect macros and get this amount of protein. Yet, I think these people move and look really good for their age. They look vital. I'm thinking about people like Fred Astaire, who's like a tap dancer that was performing Oscar routines at 71. Or in the fitness space, people like Jack LaLanne. They lived well into their 90s and they were very mentally sharp and they could move well. If you asked Jack a question in an interview, he would tell you straight up that he didn't do these things perfectly and he would mess up a lot. But he would take on challenges, even at really old age, like the swimming challenge at like 50 or 60 that he took on. He was able to do really cool movements and did what felt good to him most of his time. Fred Astaire at 71 is a better dancer than me at 25. I see people like this in NYC all the time. In the park that I grew up in personally, one of my training buddies was a 52-year-old Thai woman. She didn't know any training protocol and she had started very late in her life, to be honest. She said she started at 40, but she moved incredibly well. She could do full splits all 3 ways, right? Even middle splits, jump around, do like parkour-like movement, do very insane yoga back bends. Her eyes always had a full twinkle and she was always smiling. And so nice too. Another example was a 70-year-old Cantonese grandpa that I had often trained with since I was like in 8th grade, right? Like we worked out alongside each other. He ran so well. He would run to his groceries every day, get his grocery bag, and run back home. He did pistol squats in the park, would flip around in the monkey bar, did headstands. Every time he finished a workout, he would balance in the railway and do some crazy like squatting motion, and then he would run back home again. He didn't know any zone 2 protocols or any grip strength tools. He just moved happily and he played around. He moved very well. I 100% believe that this level of playfulness invites investigation. These people have figured out that that is the way, the primary way of being, without having to read all the scientific papers on it. And yes, they definitely have good VO2 max and grip strength. It's just they don't care about that. And so for this reason, I think people taking up challenges matters a lot. Like whether it's running or climbing or just improving your VO2 max. Whatever it is, doing something like Brian Johnson's protocol of getting perfect sleep score. It's a good thing. Doing your zone 2 training and eating this amount of protein, eating fiber, viewing sunlight in the morning, red light protocols, sauna. These are all good things, I believe, regardless of the scientific evidence, which quite frankly, some of these things just don't have a lot of, is generally a good thing. Not because these things are inherently good of itself, but because I think challenges invites us to learn more about ourselves. It gives us a sense of purpose. In my opinion, it's not that hard to do a sauna twice a week. It feels good. But if it's increasing your capacity, it gives you a sense of purpose, and they provide us an opportunity to fail and improve, which helps us re-engage in our mindfulness. Failures helps us become more potent in that sense. We tend to be very scared of failures, and so going after them helps us rebalance ourselves in each moment. I think that's where things like grace and vitality comes from. Not the protocol itself, but the challenge of taking on the protocol. I personally found it very easy to improve my VO2 max. It's always been really good. Genetically, I don't know, it could be because of the fact that I grew up in the Himalayas, and I did not find it that hard to improve my grip strength either. However, I didn't notice a significant quality difference in the way of my life because I'm young, but I do think there's other things as well. On the other hand, recently I've been learning partnering for ballet, which is pas de deux. I didn't find that challenging in terms of cardio and physical strength. I had the ability to move around and lift my partner. However, I found the act of communication, coordination, timing to be incredibly difficult and rewarding. I think doing this genuinely gave me grace and vitality. It gave me energy, right? More so than doing the Norwegian 4x4. I think that's a very important caveat, right? The older people that I'm talking about, they don't just follow protocols for the sake of it. They still do them. Rather, they engage and challenge themselves in a meaningful way. Whether it's doing the monkey bars, or doing the NYT Wordle problem, or learning splits at 50, or running a marathon. It doesn't really matter, right? I think these things require constant engagement with our mind. And it's clear that that's what keeps them sharp. The reason why I bring that up is also because not everyone's challenges looks the same, clearly. For some, it's easy to maintain a good diet, but are you able to do that while maintaining good connections and friendship? For some, it's easy to maintain a good VO2 max, but are you able to do that while learning new coordination patterns? For some, sleep comes really easily. Look at these bags. Are you able to find something exciting to work on that keeps you awake? I think that principle of being the same animal and a different beast at the same time is actually the key to a good life. We are training multiple planes of traits here. Doing that builds a quality that's inexplainable, a quality that can't always be measured. And I deeply admire people like Brian Johnson who follow these strict seeming protocols. I don't actually believe the protocols themselves are what's keeping them young entirely. He has clearly made progress and it's working for him. He's doing very well. But I think what's interesting about him is that he's challenging the idea of aging. His mission and his challenge is much more interesting. There is this idea in the entrepreneurship world that losing your health is a sacrifice that you have to make to accomplish stuff, right? Like the alpha bro, don't sleep, constant hustle culture. And I think he has challenged that and flipped that and said that health is the way to improve productivity. And I think he's right. He also wanted to challenge the concept of aging itself. I think that challenge is what's keeping him younger, right? Like, what do we mean by aging? What is it that we can aim for the future? That's the type of stuff I hear from him. I think that's beautiful. Whether or not the protocols work, honestly, it's up for air. There's a lot of debate about that. I don't think the blood transfusion stuff was scientific whatsoever, and he's always experimenting with new things that are, I don't know, I quite frankly probably help maybe less than a percentage, right? If you remove those protocols, you probably not notice that much benefits. Maybe you live an extra day, but how could you really know? But that's not what this is about. This is about the mission of what he's representing, and I think that is cool. And we can't just talk about longevity without talking about the most important factor, probably, or at least the second most important partner, which is that your girlfriend or your partner, whoever they are, make a huge difference in the quality of your life, and so your longevity. People in good marriage across the board score better for everything, right? Including physical health markers. They tend to have less problems of addiction and heart attacks and other bodily illness, right? They're just in a better spot, usually. In a similar way, your family situation also makes a huge difference in what you like to eat and what you like to partake in. If in these situations, all that exists is arguments, lack of feedback, and constant demands, I think you will be stressed out. Better to be alone in these cases than the wrong relationship. For example, I hate being told what to do. Personally, I think a lot of us do feel this way as well. Even when my parents told me to do something when I was younger, even if they were right, it would always make me a little bit upset. If they forced me, I would tweak out. And this is how I felt when someone I'm dating tries to do a similar thing. I think my body naturally craves freedom. So being told I have to do something by the person that I'm dating bothers me tremendously. Yet I love being able to provide for my family and friends. I love being helpful to them and of service to them. I love making them laugh and think. I love challenging them. I love it when they give me feedback and make me laugh and think. Voluntarily being able to do those things, it feels so different from being forced to. Every single one of my favorite memories this year has involved my friends and family in some way, at least in my remembering self. Sure, I do think I was happy to be doing that cardio routine, but I don't remember it at all. But the things that I've done together with everyone, like playing card games and making cool videos and having fun and hiking with them, gave me so much more to chew on. I still think about it and I'm still like smiling about it. This is clearly the stuff of life, right? Why worry about having a six-pack and 10% body fat or looks maxing and looking at your maxilla when we have all this more abundance available to us if we just simply connect with the right people? Now, simply is a big word there. Instead, I think we should truly try to create stuff with other people. Videos, events, hike, dance parties, costume parties, anything goes. And I strongly believe that is the best longevity tool. And I can't talk about longevity without talking about another factor that's important too, which is wealth. Quite frankly, money doesn't automatically mean health, right? You see all these billionaires spending money to gain back their youth. That's for sure. And some of the healthiest countries are poorer than the US. And some of what I view as being healthier food, beans and fruits, can actually be afforded with less money than the actual like supplemental healthy food that we talk about. In fact, the more you start getting into these fad and healthy diets, the more the grocery bills rise without the actual proper healthful effect of being healthier. So I do think simplicity is the key here. That being said though, wealth matters a lot. Struggling to get your next meal is a very strong reality for most people in the US and in the world. And money problems, quite frankly, stress me out more than anything else these days, especially considering I don't have a job anymore. Having gotten laid off, it's hard to care about what my VO2max is. Not having enough money for a medical visit is also a huge, dreadful struggle for most people right now. Looking for a job, looking for a source of income. These are all very important stresses in life. It also kind of affects the type of connections and networks you could build, right? If you're working 24/7, you're not gonna have time for your friends. So the type of work that you do is probably the first step you have to take in improving relationships. While the first couple of things I figured out, I think I figured out relationship and my general healthy protocols, but wealth is something that's really difficult to figure out for most people. But I'm closer to it every day. I do believe that. But the funny thing about it is that this is the type of challenge I'm talking about, right? Me trying to engage in this challenge of trying to build more wealth is actually going to keep me young as long as I don't forget the same animal and different beast principle, right? And I'm thankful that I had the privilege to even participate in that when many others don't. As my mission progresses, I hope I could help out as many people as possible in that exact same principle. So in that way, this idea of going after money, I don't view it as being a bad thing necessarily, right? People often ostracize wealth. I do think the principle of challenging oneself in a playful manner, that is what matters. And so in that way, having wealth does improve all your health markers and your relationship. And part of that is, yes, me continuing to apply for jobs and working my master's and applying to these videos, but it's also other things, right? Like thinking about ways to make money without working as much. So that's an important concept. And I think that's the first time I've ever talked about this in this channel. But I do believe there's a pathway for all of us or most of us in this world to experience abundance in life. I strongly do believe that. I gotta make that money, yes, but I want everyone around me to also, community of people that are doing a similar thing. Yeah, gotta make that money, gotta love others around you, gotta challenge ourselves constantly, gotta learn constantly. All that is possible when we play rather than just follow protocols. So if you get anything out of this video, is that I hope you practice your VO2max and your zone 2 and your diet and try to make money and, I don't know, be nice to people. But I do hope people invite themselves to play more.